Hi friends, how are you? Thank you so much for joining me on our Instagram live tonight. We are interviewing Relic Hunter Mike Relics, and you can follow him on Instagram. We're expecting him in a couple of minutes, and we're going to talk about his relic hunting that he does in Hamilton and where he goes and all of the things that he has found. So we're going to talk to him in just a second, but I'm going to start with just talking about some upcoming things that are happening. So today we released Secondhand Witch by Tanya Cartmel and Alex Guar. So I am so excited for them. The artwork is amazing. Once again, Alex did such an amazing job, and you can order that pre-order off our site, pandemoniumpublishing.com/shop for a release of around June the 20th. So we just need to get these books shipped out and printed, and we're almost there. So order your copies today. Tanya did a great job with the manuscript. Thank you to everybody who ordered and pre-ordered and who edited and formatted and all of these things. So thank you for that. This weekend we know is Tim Ford's book launch at the Ale House on June the 11th from 1 to 4, where he will be signing copies of his book, Diablo Returns. That's book number 8 in the Mitch Strongbow series. So I will be there then. And on Friday, this Friday, we are going to the Norfolk Night Market. Friday and Saturday. We'll be there from 3 to 11 on both days. And we hope to see you there too. So we are going to talk to Mike Relics. And he has a pretty cool job, a very cool book, and an even cooler channel where you can see what he does. So we're going to let him in here. Let's see. Okay. There he is.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Excellent. Nice to be here.
Good. Yeah, thanks for being here. And we actually met at Concession Street Concession Street during book crawl, and I stood by your table with your publisher, and you had such a cool book and a cool display of things that you had found. So I'm really excited. There you are. Hi.
Hey! I already thought I was there, but apparently I wasn't. We're here now.
Yeah, good. So tell us about you. Tell us about your book and what you do and why you started.
Okay, so for about the better part of a decade now, I've been scouring the Hamilton escarpment and the woods in Hamilton, and I've been using a high-end metal detector to dig up the old coins, old relics, old tools, jewelry, anything you could think of that's made out of metal. I've been recovering from the Hamilton escarpment and the surrounding woods around Hamilton for the better part of a decade now. So the collection has grown quite massive. So I spend a lot of time on the Hamilton escarpment digging because it's about the last place where we haven't paved paradise and put up a parking lot yet. So there isn't much left that is woods out here. So it's about 0.1% of what is left, but the relics and the treasures that are buried inches beneath our feet are just amazing what's left out there.
So name something that you found that you were totally surprised, like your most exciting find, if you can narrow it down.
Well, if you go back in the history of Hamilton, we were colonized. I mean, obviously, we get back beforehand when we get into Native American, and then we get into being colonized, and then we get into where we are today. But I've found coins in Hamilton from the 1600s, which is anytime you pull anything with a date like that on out of the ground that hasn't been seen in 400 years, and you're the first person to find it in the original matrix that it was dropped in. It's an unbelievable feeling. But the coins are really cool because they're so dated. You get an exact date off them. But, I mean, I have axe heads that date back to the Hudson Bay Company when it first started that are marked with a maker's mark. We have jewelry that dates back into the 1700s. So It's, you know what, it's all about history. The favorite things that I really like to dig are things that are personalized. So sometimes we find jewelry that's a couple hundred years old that has engraving of names on it, or we find what are called love tokens. So say in the 1800s, you couldn't go to Lime Ridge Mall and go to Things Engraved and buy your girlfriend a bracelet and have it engraved for them. So what they would do is they would smooth the side of a coin and they would engrave your girlfriend's name into it or your name into it for her with all that kind of stuff. So sometimes you can find things that are very personalized and you know it meant a lot to somebody. So that kind of makes you feel, that's kind of a cool recovery also.
That is a cool recovery. So you wrote a book. Tell us about your book. How did the book come to be? Tell us about your publisher, and how long has the book been out for?
Okay, so the book actually came out in the pandemic, which is pretty common to hear right now because the pandemic lasted for so long. So we couldn't really do too much of to get it out there during when it was first released. So the book's been out, I believe it was October last year that it came out. So it hasn't been out too long, but we've just started to do some promotions with this stuff now. So the book came about, my publisher, his name is Bill King, and the publishing company is At a Wanderer Publishing, Hamilton's publisher. And he does, Bill King himself, he runs a Hamilton history walk every Sunday at 10 a.m. And I think this is his 5th year doing it. It draws about 70 people, and we do historic walks in downtown Hamilton. So I was a speaker. I've been a speaker a few times because of the metal detecting hobby and some of the things that I had found. So I was a speaker once at one of his walks. So it was pretty successful. Everyone was pretty interested. There was a good reaction to it. So he approached me about writing a book, and we spent about 8 months, and it was actually a lot of fun. And there's a lot of pictures in there, so it's nothing. It's not going to change the history of Hamilton or anything. But it's pretty interesting to see what I've pulled out and have it documented the way it is in the book. So it's really interesting. The books, I have a copy of it here if I can show it. It's called The Relic Hunter.
And where can we find your book?
You can find it at Ottawa.ca, which is the publishing company's thing, or you can add me here on Instagram. And I mean, if you're local to me, I'll deliver it to you myself.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Now, when I met you at Concession Street, you had a whole bunch of coins on display. And
I did.
Okay, so with the really rare ones, do you display only your duplicates, or do you display your most precious finds in that display box? How do you choose what's going to go in there? And have you found multiples of things?
There's some very good questions, actually. So the way that I do it is I do it site specific. So the coins I find at the Wentworth Incline Rail, they go into a display of the Wentworth Incline Rail. This way, when I pull things out, when you pull things out of its original matrix and you don't know where it came from, then you've lost the provenance on the coin. You've lost the original matrix where it came from. So it's very important that you document where you found it, and if you want to call it what it is. So I'm not sure if your viewers read the Hamilton Spectator, but today was the 130th anniversary of the James Street Incline Rail.
Wow.
And I've been there today for some of the relics that I found. So that was today's Hamilton Spectator. It's a pretty good article on the front page of Arts and Life. So, and I wouldn't have been able to do this article if I didn't do my things site specific. So I wouldn't have been able to show him what I had found at the James Street Incline Rail if I didn't know what I had found at the James Street Incline Rail. But do I find duplicates? Yes. Some coins are a little more common. I know where some old ground is in Hamilton. I'm not exactly going to tell your viewers where that is. But so I get back into what are called bank tokens. So in the mid-1850s, there was a change shortage in the mint. So the population started to grow and they couldn't keep up with the money. So the government allowed banks to mint their own tokens that were legal tender. They're called Bank of Montreal tokens, Upper Canada tokens. This goes back, like, I think they run like 1835 to 1858 area. So I find a lot of those because I get into some old ground. So the tokens I find very many multiples of. Some of the older silvers, like 10 cents back in 1850 was a lot of money. So I don't find multiples of a lot of the silvers, but they're always fun to pull out of the ground also.
Wow, that is really interesting. And what a perfect day to interview you since you were in the Spectator today. What are the odds of
Yeah, it just happened to work that way. Yeah, yeah. There's been a few articles in the Spectator. The public seems to enjoy this hobby. It's not easy. I'm going to start with that. This isn't something where I'm telling people to go and buy a metal detector and you're going to find treasure. I've spent years. I spend more time researching than I do digging. So this isn't something where I don't want everyone going out there digging holes. There's rules and regulations on how to do this. You can't just go to the public park and dig holes and leave them open. So in the book, I have the rules and regulations. Online, I have a YouTube channel. It's Dirt Fishing with Mike Relics, or Dirt Fishing Hamilton, I believe. So if you check that out, you will see the rules and regulations on it. So it's very important that we follow them, or else we could be in some trouble.
Definitely. And how did you get started in this? What an interesting thing to do.
Yeah, so I've always been interested in history. So I was looking for fossils. So I was a fossil collector. And the place I was looking for fossils was at Albion Falls in Hamilton, Ontario, at the bottom of the gorge. This was about 9 years ago. I went home and I was researching how that gorge was made originally, like the escarpment, the Hamilton escarpment was made via an iceberg, and I wanted to know how that gorge, and if it was over 10,000 years old, if I could find fossils there. What I found out was that in the 1800s, that was Hamilton's first town. It was called Albion Mills. There was a mill on the top of Albion Falls that was water powered. They had the first mail delivery in Hamilton. So I looked. I said, I'm going to find this town, and I went and I bought an $80 metal detector. Now, I went out, I found nothing except for garbage. I found a lot of beer cans and because I had no idea what I was doing. And that's very common in the beginning. It's kind of it's a hobby that you have to spend some time at. So, so that's how I ended up with a metal detector in my hand. About 2 months later, a buddy of mine, Joe Ferguson, he moved into Stony Creek. I went over to his house one time with the metal detector, and I went on the escarpment about 2 or 3 kilometers away from Battlefield. So it's very far enough away from a historic site, 2 or 3 kilometers on the escarpment. And I just happened to find an 1842 Bank of Montreal half-penny token with this $80 metal detector that just rang metal. That was it. Very basic machine, but that just changed the course of everything. So I really love that coin, and I was lucky to find it, but it was meant to be. Since then, I've dug up thousands of coins from the 1800s, early 1900s, 1700s. So just a super fun ride. It's a super interesting hobby.
Yeah, definitely. So do you keep the super valuable ones, or do you sell them, or do people buy these at all? How does that work?
Yeah, so that's a good question again also. So the monetary value on the coins isn't through the roof. And the reason for that is in the coin collecting world, the monetary value is done via the condition. So the coins that I'm digging up have been buried for 200 years in the ground, in the soil. If I get them from a backyard, they've had years of fertilizer. So they come out in, some silvers and do come out in really good condition, but you're never going to find a near mint. Well, you could if you get really lucky. I can't say never, but they've usually been in a little bit of a corroded situation by the time I get my hands on them. The historic value to me is very high, though. So, but what you also run into as a metal detectorist is gold and silver. So the gold and silver is where the money is, because you accidentally dig up modern gold rings. You dig up a lot of silver, actually. So even if you're in the woods, I've dug many gold rings right out of the woods. So to upgrade my machine, I have sold a couple gold rings. Everything else of historic value, because it's not really what I'm looking for. That's more modern stuff to me. But yeah, I have unloaded a couple gold rings, and I have bought a new machine, because sometimes you have to do that. So all the historic stuff though stays in my cabinet, and it looks like a museum in there. So
wow. So how many hours a week do you spend looking for coins and other things? I'm
going to say in the beginning, so I'm at my 8th, 9th year now, 8th or 9th season doing it. And in the beginning, it's a little bit addictive. I'm not going to lie to you. It's super interesting in the beginning, especially when you start to get successful. So even then, I do work full time. I always have. So I did about 10 hours a week. But if you add that up, on the hiking the escarpment, and even at 10 hours a week, that's 40 hours a month. You're getting up there then. So, and I did that for a few years until I let it go. You don't want it to feel like a job. It's only a hobby. So that's super important too, because it can get a little bit addictive. Every hole could be treasure, and so it does get the blood flowing, and you just have to make sure you remember it's a hobby. But yeah, so 10 hours a week, that's not terribly bad or anything. But yeah, I did that for a few years. I was very successful at it. I did the research that not many people were willing to do.
Right.
And that's how I found the old coins and stuff. So, and that's how I find the old bottles. That's how we find the relics. Some things that I find even are like pocket knives. I have a few of them here that came off the Wentworth incline rail. So these were really, I don't know if you can see that or not, but they're like things like pocket knives, horseshoes, things that were very utilitarian back in the 1800s. They're littered all over the escarpment. So you needed a pocket knife. You just did. It was an essential part of your everyday life. If you lost your pocket knife, you replaced your pocket knife. So, and horseshoes. Horses were everywhere. It was your mode of transportation until the roads came in, which is what destroyed the incline rail, actually, which is why I was in the newspaper today for the 130th anniversary.
Wow. So
away from the question there.
How far have you gone in your search for relics? Like all the way up the Bruce Trail? How far have you gone so far, and where do you hope to go?
Yeah, so I'm honestly, I have a thing for Hamilton. So I do Hamilton in the surrounding area, and I do it for a reason. I was born and raised here, and I find the relics from here just a lot more enticing than, so we're talking, when I say Hamilton, I'm talking Cayuga, Caledonia, Burlington, so Hamilton and the surrounding area, quite a bit around it, but I have no desire to end up overseas and dig things that are 3,000 years old. I have a real passion for Hamilton history and the surrounding area. So and there's enough ground left for me to go if I do the right research that I don't need to move anywhere else. I know people that travel to come here to metal detect and stay out of Hamilton.
That is very, very cool. So you talked about upgrading your metal detector. You started off with something that just found only metal. Now, what does your other one include?
Oh, at the point I'm at now, I can tell you I'm probably at an 80-85% accuracy rate what's in the ground before I dig it out. So now I no longer dig holes. Now we just kind of dig treasure. So I know what to dig and what not to dig. And the machine that I own now, it's probably worth about $5,000. So we've upgraded from the $80 machine into a machine that has GPS location, so I can really hunt a spot. So, and I can really dig deep coins, and it's a little bit different than what I started with. I was really lucky to dig that 1842 coin, the first one, with that $80 machine. That machine, it just beeped when there was metal. So even if it was just a nail, it beeped. If there was a coin, it beeped. So I was just really lucky that I just happened to dig that beep.
That's amazing. Have any of our museums or anywhere like that, we have a lot of museums in Hamilton, have they you about your coin collection? Has it ever been on display somewhere? Have you lent it out to places?
Yeah, so I started off because it's been about the last 4 or 5 years that I've been bringing some of my finds out in the public. And I started off at the Concession Street BIA, which is where I met you on Concession Street. I had a display in that front window. So the Concession Street BIA window, like 4 years ago. And it was up for like a year, and it had my coins that I had found on like Wentworth and Concession Street in that window, and it had a great response with Christina, and she said she had a lot of interest in it. So it was and that's where I started. And then I did one of the Concession Street festivals or something, but I remember I was there and I stood there and I was by myself and no one even really talked to me or knew what I was doing, but I was like, I'm gonna stand here anyway. So yeah, it's been great. So yeah.
What is the question that you get asked the most as a relic hunter from the general public? What do people really want to know?
It's kind of unfortunate, but what's the most valuable thing you've ever dug up?
Yeah.
Not my favorite question. I would like to say I'd like to hear what's the most historic thing you've ever dug up other than that, but that really seems to pique people's interest. It's the most valuable. What's the most valuable hole you've ever dug?
Right. Wow. So do you think that you're going to continue this? Like, do you think this is something that you're going to write another book about? Is there enough content for another book? Because as a publisher, we're always thinking like, okay, what's the next one going to be? We think in terms of series almost, but are you planning on writing another book? Because listening to you, you have a ton of ideas, and the wheels are turning right now, and I'm like, definitely write a series. You have a very cool job and hobby, and I think it would make a really great book. But I'm not poaching you, Bill. Let Bill know I'm poaching you. But it's one of those things where, do you see yourself creating more books with the content that you found? Is that something you want to do?
Well, I mean, there's the TV show that's on Cable 14 right now that we're going to start on hopefully a season 2 soon. But what I don't want to become is a one-trick pony. This started because I have a passion for history, and my passion was fossils before that. I have a passion for survival. I have survival in the everyday life, but I mean, like, we're talking outdoor survival. I have a passion for, so if I branch out, then we branch out. And it's, but in the book, to answer your question a little more accurately, in the book, there was a lot of other detectorists that I involved in it, because it wasn't just about me. So there was chapters of other people, and there's countless other people that I could include in the next book. And I do have enough relics to write the next one. What I don't want to do is, as a publisher, you'll understand this, is I don't want to be the person who writes 5 books and has 500 copies sitting in my living room that I use as ottomans to put my feet on. So I will not write another book until I sell 1,000 copies of The Relic Hunter. So, and then we'll think about writing the second one. I'm not just going to keep writing books if no one's really going to read them. So
that's what every publisher wants to hear. Everybody, listen up. We're going to rewind that part and replay. I'm kidding, but yes, it's true. Tell us about your TV show. How did that?
Oh, super exciting.
Give us like the concept, the overview of it.
Oh, it's super exciting. I'm live digging, and I know it's reality TV show, and it could be questionable on whether I'm planting coins and stuff, but I believe anyone in the world will be able to tell by my reaction when I dig a 150-year-old coin that I did not know it was there, and it's in its original matrix, and I guarantee it. I have like 70 videos of me digging things live on my YouTube channel. Every single one of them is real and legitimate. There's people around me that know it's real and legitimate. So I had an idea for a TV show, because the YouTube channel people were like, whoa, this is super exciting, because I know now what's in the ground before I know with a pretty good accuracy. So I can kind of turn on my camera when I go, oh, this sounds like a good signal. And then I can go, hey guys, watch this. And if it turns out not to be, then I just delete the video and no one knows the better, right? So it's, and then I could dig it live. So I got together with Scott Newman, White Dwarf Pictures, and we did a pilot for Cable 14, or we ran the idea across from them, and they really liked it. And so all of a sudden, it was very quick. All of a sudden, we were shooting episodes. So I had camera people and everything. Out in the middle of the woods, I said, this is not going to be done in the studio. I need these people to be climbing the escarpment, and so it's the middle of the summer. It's 35 degrees out. There's mosquitoes, there's spiders, there's snakes, there's everything. It's hard terrain to walk. And I said, I don't know how else to do it. I can't do it any other way. I can't just build an escarpment in a studio and pretend we're doing this. So it was awesome that they all did it, and they did it, and they had a blast, and we actually found things. We had coin experts. We had museums. At one point, you asked me about museums. Sometimes I trail off. I probably forgot to get back to it, but episode 5 in Dirt Fishing with Mike Relics on Cable 14 is in Stony Creek, and the Stony Creek Museum drops a musket ball into a musket that I dug up, and it's wild. Perfect.
That is super cool. We are definitely going to check out your show, and I'm going to put a link to all of this at the bottom of this, and we're going to share it on our Facebook for all the people that couldn't come tonight. We'll share it on YouTube and all that kind of stuff, and I will send you a copy so that you have it. And we're just going to put a link to your book as well. This is really fascinating, and I'm really glad that our paths connected and that we could chat about so long. Yeah, but it's really interesting field of study and that you are so passionate about it, and that comes across. So thank you.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Enjoy your evening. Anyone watching? I'm not sure if anyone is, but thank you for watching.
So much, Mike. We'll see you.
All right. Thank you.
Bye. So the Relic Hunter, and I'm so glad that he got to join us because that was really, really fun and very interesting. And you never know who you're going to meet when you're out and about in a city. And he's from Hamilton, and we're also in Hamilton. And I think that it's really fascinating how you can connect with people over history, especially. So it was really nice having him. I will put the links up for you so that you can find his book and you can find his show, and you can chat with him on Instagram and whatever other social media channels that you want to. So I hope that you'll check that out. Thanks for joining us, and happy Tuesday, everybody. We'll see you next time.